In this video, let's take a look at Mysterium and how far they've come over the past year. First got involved with Mysterium about a year ago when they were moving from testnet to mainnet. And at that time, and through the course of the past year or so, on several occasions, I set up Mysterium nodes that I was just running on some HiveOS rigs, running in the background, hoping to accumulate some Mysterium, and it never really took off. I think for 1 month I ran it and I had only accumulated like 0.0001 mist. It didn't really seem like it was working that well. I couldn't tell if it was firewall issues or what. And so I stopped using it for a while, and I recently reset up a node, and it has been spectacular. And so what we're noticing is a lot more usage on the client side, where when they first went mainnet, there wasn't that much usage on the client side. I did test it out from a client side perspective. Works really well. It's easy to connect. It's easy to sticky the IPs and then disconnect. You can either do it through a GUI or you can do it through command line. The command line was really nice. It actually allows you to connect and disconnect through Python, through .NET apps, a bunch of various ways. So about a month ago, I had reset up my node, and what I'm noticing is a lot more uptick in usage, to the point where I'm going to show you my recent earnings here. But if we just take a look at the past 24 hours, we can see there was a pretty big session here that was earned me almost 0.06 Mysterium, which is really good. The current session that's running is at 0.337 Mysterium, which is really good. Now if we hop on over to, before we look at the transactions, I actually want to show you the history. And this is a nice chart because this shows you kind of where all your connections are coming from. And so this is over the past 24 hours. You can see there's at least one or more connections, but less than 50 from each of these areas. So the US region includes Alaska and Hawaii, obviously. And then if you scroll down, you can see how much data was consumed by each area. And so here I can see there was a 5-hour session for somebody in the US doing data scraping. And that earned me 0.01 Mysterium, and that consumed 19 megabytes. Here's a bigger order. This was, again, this was actually B2B VPN usage. And so this one was for about 6 hours and consumed 1.52 gigabytes of data. And that earned me 0.12 Mysterium. If we expand this on a larger scale and we look at the past 7 days, what you'll see is some expanded regions. Right, we had some usage from Mexico, from Canada, from a couple other areas. And if we just scroll down and take a look at some of the data, go back a couple pages here, we can see some of these are small, but this one was 215 megabytes. This one was 57 or 56 in Singapore. Another 50 megabytes for the US. And here you can see in Peru there was actually a 3.5-hour session that was 1.5 gigabytes. So you can see some substantial usage as compared to what it was a year ago. And if we look at the past 30 days, unfortunately you can't really sort this, but it is still loading. There we go. And it actually failed to load just because some API timeouts with the large amount of volume going on right now. When that happens, you can attempt to refresh and see if it'll come back up, but this could just be from the sheer number of sessions that I've had over the past 30 days, which is a good thing, right? Utilization is what you're looking for when you're running a node. One thing I will say, there is a $1 onboarding cost. in order to onboard your node, but that's it. There's no collateral. They do take 20% commission on the payouts. So if we jump on over to, actually I'm going to jump on, yeah, this is fine. I'll jump over to transactions, and you can see we've been paid out 30 Mysterium. And here you can see my oldest payout was November 24th. So this has only been, we've only been up and running on this for 20 or so days. It hasn't been a whole lot, and we've gotten 30 Mysterium, which is really nice, but we haven't actually received 30 Mysterium. So this is where things get a little bit tricky. The settlement amount is 5 Mysterium, so once you hit 5, you'll get an auto payout. However, the payout scheme is they keep 20%. The advantage here is there's no collateral that you have to put up. There's nothing like that. However, you are sacrificing 20% on the payout. So for every 5 Mysterium you earn, your payout's going to be approximately 4. So if you look at my payouts over here, you can actually see the fee, and they tell you the fee includes a 20% network fee plus blockchain transaction fees for settlement transactions. When they first launched, they were a ERC20 token on Ethereum. They have since moved to Polygon, so the fees have dropped a little bit. However, you're still being charged at 20%. So if you look at the actual received amounts I got, 3.9, 3.9, 3.9, 3.9, and then we did get 4 on this one, a little bit over 4, and then 3.98. One thing that is nice is as soon as that threshold's hit, you get that payout pretty much immediately. And because they're on Polygon, you can get payouts directly to a Ledger hardware device, which is what I personally do. It's really nice because then you can use a service like QuickSwap, and you could swap it to Polygon, swap it to wrapped Ethereum, pretty much anything on the Polygon network, and you can bridge it across. It makes it really easy to liquidate if you do want to liquidate it. Or another nice thing is if you use it from the client perspective, you can use that Mysterium to actually use the decentralized VPN. So if you have a scenario where you need to use the VPN as well, you can just hold on to those tokens and you can use that, and then you don't have to worry about obtaining Mysterium to use the VPN. Another thing you can do is you can download your transactions. Now these transactions are only the payouts that you received from the network to your wallet. This doesn't contain every session. There's currently no way to export the sessions. The only way to view those is on the history tab. So if we hop on over to settings and then traffic, here this is where you can turn your node on and offline. So you don't have to completely disable the service. You can just toggle the switch here if you ever want to turn it offline. You can also limit the bandwidth. Right now I have this turned off, so it's unlimited bandwidth. However, if I wanted to turn this on, I could, and I could limit that bandwidth. And then you can also define the ports that you want to use. By default, it's going to attempt to do UPnP on UDP ports 10,000 through 60,000. This won't work on a majority of routers, which is fine. In fact, I don't have any ports allowed through the router for Mysterium. So if you notice here, this says most on the accepting connections, and that's because UPnP is not working. And that's mainly because this range it's a substantial range to begin with. I recommend reducing that down to maybe 5,000 ports. But this port range contains a lot of reserved ports for routers. So by default, this probably won't work. However, we're still getting a substantial amount without having to allow anything kind of into our network. It's able to do hole punching. And so this is the order in which it's going to try to do things. So it's going to try to use manual port forwarding first if it can, which we don't really have set up anyways. It's going to try to do UPnP, which it can't. My router is actually blocking the UPnP config. And so it's then going to fall back to hole punching. And this is going to allow through the majority of the traffic anyways. And you can see here's our quality at the top. And this is kind of their key metrics, right? Latency, bandwidth, uptime, and successful connection rate. I have a relatively decent connection on what this is running from. I have AT&T business class, which is around 300 megabits per second up and down. And that anytime there's a new update, I'm running this in Docker. So if there's a new update and Watchtower hasn't updated the image yet, it'll tell you right here that there's a new update. If you need to report a bug or anything, you can do that from within here. You can also initiate a chat session from within here. And then back over on the main page, these are the 3 types of services that you can offer. You've got public, you've got B2B data transfers for the most part, and then you have data scraping. And here you can kind of see what the price per gigabytes for each module are, and you can see data scraping is the most valuable, right, from a fee standpoint. But what you'll see here is I've actually earned the most from the VPN and just straight data transfer. This could be people watching videos, this could be, downloading files. A lot of this could be things like Netflix, right, where they're trying to access, maybe they're somewhere in Europe and they want to watch a Netflix video in the US that is on, Netflix that's blocked over there. And so you're going to see a lot of utilization over here on this. One thing to watch with the total earnings, you'll notice this number is the same on all of these. This is not your total earnings for that data type. It's your total earnings for your Mysterium node altogether. So just keep that in mind. And then if you scroll down a bit, you can see your current sessions. You can also see some stats for the past 24 hours. This shows you your uptime. And this one over here actually shows you sessions. So you can see my system's only ever been idle 1% of that time, meaning 1% of the time there were no active VPN sessions utilizing my node. 99% of the time there was. And then here we can see those active sessions. Right now there's a session that's been going on for 5.5 hours and another one that's been going on for over 6 hours. And the 6-hour one is doing data transfer, and it's been utilizing 1.56, and so that's where this 0.3 Mysterium is coming into play, right? Those are projected based off of this. And so if you come in and you refresh, you may see that last number go up and down to the point where it might drop completely flat, just based on whatever that person is doing in the connection. So there we can see I just refreshed and it went from 0.29 to 0.26, right? And that's just the nature of that current active session and what type of traffic they're sending through it. And then you can also view data. Right, and so here you can see that's that 1.41 gig. Here earlier was 0.1, and then here was another 0.07. And then real late last night, there was 0.02. But that's it for this video. Just wanted to cover kind of Mysterium, how it's really come along compared to where it was, and how I'm really enjoying these payouts. So if you look at the payout dates, we got a payout today, yesterday. We got a payout, and then we actually got one the day before. So this is December 12th, December 11th, and then we got one on December 7th, December 2nd, November 27th, and November 24th. So I was saying at least a payout every 3 days. And then all of a sudden I had a really good day yesterday, and basically earned 5 Mysterium in one day. And so that payout, even at only receiving 4 Mysterium, that's still $1. So I made $1 yesterday just running this node providing some bandwidth on a pre-existing HiveOS rig that otherwise would have just been mining.